Dana Milgram and her husband Steve can be seen at the beginning of the film. Dana is a track coach and health buff. After finishing her run, she stands up but is hit by a hit-and-run driver as she crosses the street. She now comes to in the hospital, where we find out that she has been in a coma for nearly 2 weeks. Her legs are paralyzed, her body is battered, and she is attached to a medical ventilator via a tracheal tube. She is compelled to use a speech synthesis program because she is unable to speak. Assuring her that he will try to return her home soon, her husband Steve assists her in adjusting to the program. Dana wakes up that night in the middle of the night when she is by herself in her room. We also catch a glimpse of someone in this place. She notices that someone is in her room, and the entity is now visible standing in the room's corner. After that, she is slightly surprised when her room's door shuts. She now claims that she has been in the hospital for 18 days and that she wants to go home the following day. Dana informs nurse assistant Trevor that someone entered her room last night as he arrives just as the morning routine is about to begin. There is no one there when Trevor looks in the closet. No patients from this wing, he claims, could have wandered in. Next, we see Steve being driven to the hospital by his daughter Gemma. When the two enter Dana's room, Trevor informs Steve that she is having hallucinations as a result of the painkillers and believes someone was watching her in her room the night before. To consult a psychiatrist, he suggests. Dana then answers Steve's question about last night by saying that she was being watched but couldn't turn to look at the person. On which he comments that it might be the ventilator's noise. Now that Gemma has finished her tour of the medical facility, she arrives in a room and discovers that someone is present. When Gemma lies down to pick up some items that have fallen from her due to an alarm, we can see someone's feet in the area. Elizabeth, the hospital's director, arrives and takes her away from the scene. Then Gemma returns to Dana's room, and the two of them head back home. The entity that attacked Dana that night then vanished the following moment. Once a man is seated next to her, she becomes alarmed. She hears from that man that the paramedics brought her back to life after she had been dead for 3 minutes. She claims that during that time, she felt the dead people grabbing her and their fingernails digging into her skin. She is safe here, the man assures her, and nothing will happen to her. The same entity that was moving toward Dana that night is now inside the closet in front of her as it begins to open on its own while she is still sleeping. As a result of the ventilator's pipe being bent, it begins to malfunction, causing Dana to choke and eventually pass out. The following morning, she informs Steve that a man had turned off the machine, and this time he had seen him. She had no idea who he was, but he had a hideous face and long hands. Then, as the man sets up some cameras in her room and shows her how to operate them, Dana gets her first glimpse of herself following the accident. After speaking with the caller, Steve informs Dana that Ashley was the caller. Steve then goes outside to speak to Elizabeth after spotting her on camera. He learns from Elizabeth that nobody turned the machine off, instead, it had broken down. Here, Steve becomes extremely enraged and requests that she be taken care of. Dana was growing restless at this point in the evening when she abruptly heard some noise. She attempts to speak because she thinks there might be a patient present, but the other person is not responding. She then looks up the history of this hospital online, where she discovers a group photo of some kids as well as the attacker. This man, Eric Nielsen, killed several children before taking his own life. Dana asks Trevor about Eric Nielsen when he visits her room the following morning for their morning routine. He claims to have no prior knowledge of either the name or the subject. He suggests that she ask Dr. Stenge about Nielsen if she wants to learn more about him. Dana then inquires about the patient who lives next door, to which he replies that it's Ali'i, an elderly woman who suffered a stroke. Here, Dana looks at the camera to see if there are any scratches on her thigh and becomes frightened when she does. When he tries to calm her down, we learn that this time the entity attacked her while she was dozing off. Dana now queries Dr. Stenge about Eric Nielsen the following day. He recalls that in 1972, he had been brought in as a patient when he first met him. He had experienced abuse while in foster care. They had to regularly trim his fingernails to prevent him from tearing at his own flesh because the majority of his wounds were self-inflicted. Over time, he got better, and when he was old enough, he came here and asked for a job. Although he had recovered completely, he had a bizarre obsession. He used to clip the toenails of the young patients and save them rather than discarding them, earning him the nickname Nails from some of the staff. Dana now asks, what happened to Eric then? Dr. Stenge responds, in 1984, there were 5 unusual deaths of girls. Eric was the subject of suspicion, but there was no evidence, so he hanged himself. Dana now cries out in fear, did Eric kill himself in the cupboard of this room? But Dr. Stenge doesn't respond. Dana notices Ashley in their home while Gemma and she are on a video call later, and she doesn't like it. Dana is very startled when she hears a loud noise in the room and notices that someone is trying to open the cabinet. Then Eric's ghost appears in the cabinet and moves in his direction. As Trevor tries to calm Dana down, he arrives at the scene but is unable to see the ghost. The following day, she shows Steve the camera footage, but he is unable to see anything. Dana then informs Gemma to go speak with Nails because Ellie is aware of him. Gemma now approaches Ellie and queries her regarding Eric. As soon as she notices Ellie moving her finger, she abruptly stands up, which causes Gemma to startle. The cupboard is later sealed by Trevor, who declares that nobody is permitted to exit. Dana responds by claiming that it is an evil force rather than a human. She expresses her desire to return home to Trevor, pleading with him to assist her. Dana then conducts an internet search to find out why she is the only person who can see ghosts. In this video, a man claims that a few weeks after his accident, he began to see ghosts. He was likely able to see her because he had been dead for 2 to 3 minutes at that point, which is also when the spirit can be seen in the video. Then, Trevor visits Elizabeth and informs her that while they were still conversing, there was movement in the room. Elizabeth ignores this and asks Trevor to leave. Later that night, Nails contacts Dana via her speech recognition software and informs her that she will perish in this location and that no one will be able to free her. Along with showing her a video on her laptop, he also says that Steve and Ashley are having an affair. She becomes very upset upon seeing this, and only then do cut marks appear on the legs. Nails engraved the response "because I miss you" onto her body in response to Dana's question of what he wants from her. On the other hand, Trevor hears a noise while he is relaxing in his cabin. When he opens a shelf he notices moving, he discovers Eric's file inside. He discovers Dana's maiden name on an old document. His laptop then starts to play his live video, and he hears some sound. In the video, Eric is seen exiting the wall gap behind him, but when he turns around, he cannot see anyone there. Then Eric approaches him and begins to attack. Here, Steve accuses Elizabeth of attacking Trevor while he is furious with her. Dana is informed by Steve that they discovered her 30-year-old file in Trevor's room, where she was admitted as a child when Eric Nielsen killed those 5 girls. At that moment, Gemma and Ashley also arrive. Steve then tells Dana that this hospital was where she was admitted. Dana is now taken aback to learn this. While she claims that Nails attacked her, she doesn't think this is true, and Steve ignores her. However, when she arrives, Nails attacks her as well. On the other hand, Elizabeth calls the police to report the assault. When the lights in the room suddenly go out and the hospital lights start to dim gradually, she tells Steve that Nails had just shown her that she and Ashley were in the bedroom together. Steve motions for Gemma to remain while he goes outside to seek assistance. Dana now advises Gemma to leave as well, but she refuses and coerces Dana to go with her. Gemma helps Dana remove the tracheal tube and transfer her to a wheelchair because Dana is now more physically fit and has been practicing breathing on her own. The two then hurry to leave the hospital. In contrast, Ashley kills Steve as he sits in his possessed car in the parking lot. Dana and Gemma become frightened when they see Nails approaching them and attempt to flee the area. When they finally reach Dr. Stengel, he begins to take Dana back for treatment, but Nails appears from behind and kills him. Now that he is approaching both of them, Gemma tries to remove Dana from the situation, but Dana locks her out of the room. After that, she goes to Nails on her own, who snatches her by the throat, lifts her into the air, slams her against the walls, and kills her. Dana was shocked when she saw everything that had happened, and when the emergency personnel asked who was to blame, she claims that it was the Nails that had killed her mother. The final frame of the movie shows Dana's hospital room with her laptop on the bed facing the camera. It gradually zooms in on the laptop screen, which is showing Dana lying in bed as seen from one of her CCTV cameras. After clipping her fingernails, Nails, now in living form, moves over to her bedside, and this is where the film ends. Thank you for your time.